Hi and welcome to the DE Physical Education Flip Learning videos. Continuing from my first video where we looked at the ATP-PC system, we're now going to look at the second energy system, the lactic anaerobic system or the lactate anaerobic system, also known as the anaerobic glycolic system. Any of these three definitions would be fine, or I'm going to refer to this as the lactate anaerobic system during this video. So what you're going to need to make it practical, I'm going to use Kit Kat Chunkies as my glycogen. I'm going to use Kit Kat as my glucose. I'm going to use gummy bears as my pyruvic acid. I'm going to use hoops or Haribo rings as my lactic acid. Additionally, I'm going to reference the ATP we did last week where we're using the Bounty, the cola bottles, and the fizzy strings for our adenines, phosphate, and our bonds. So if we're looking at the second energy system, we're looking at the lactic acid system. First thing we want to do is we want to know that it's in the sarcoplasm. So this is the fluid surrounding the nucleus of the muscle fibers. So again, this is the same place that our ATP-PC system happened, and this is an anaerobic place because there's no oxygen involved. Obviously means that it can happen quite quickly because we don't have to wait for the oxygen to get involved before we can move on to our next thing. So the first thing that happens inside of our sarcoplasm is your body's getting this thing called glycogen. So your body's got this thing called glycogen. This is basically stored glucose, which is your body's fuel energy source, and you mainly get this from carbohydrates. Right? This is one of the main points of your diet. So with that glycogen, your body needs to turn it into something that it can use. So you need to turn it into that glucose. For this to happen, it goes through a process called glycolysis. Right? So as it goes through that glycolysis, our Kit Kat Chunky will become glucose. Right? And this splits in basically into two areas. One section, it will create 2 ATP. So 2 ATP, hopefully you can remember from the last one. Then we've got our adenines, triphosphates. We've got 3 bits of phosphate, and this system will create 2 ATP. Right? However, when it also creates glucose, at the same time as it's creating glucose that we can use and we get those 2 ATP, right? Your body is also, or the system, the glycolysis system, is creating pyruvic acid. Right? Sometimes this is referred to as pyruvate. Pyruvic acid on its own is not actually harmful, and it's a bit of a weak acid. However, because of the lactic acid system is anaerobic, the pyruvic acid, so our pyruvic acid, actually converts into lactic acid, right, or lactate, which is a stronger acid. Sort of represented here by our circle, because obviously a circle is slightly stronger than sort of the 2 gummy bears on their own. Right? So this increase in lactic acid, what it does is it inhibits enzymes such as ATPase from the very first system, so obviously stops them sort of working, which reduces your overall performance, and this is how fatigue sets in. This system, the lactic acid system, roughly lasts about 1 to 2 minutes. However, there are some cases of it lasting up to 3. Any would be fine in your exam, sort of 1 to 3 minutes. This system is used for maximum intensity, such as 400 meters, 800 meters, invasion games, anything where you're acting at high intensity. And this system will kick in after about 10 seconds after your body has used the first system. So your body will use the ATP-PC system, it will work for those 10 seconds, and then this process will happen. Right? So just to go over it one more time, your body gets glycogen, which is stored glucose. This is mainly from carbohydrates. This goes through a process called glycolysis, which creates glucose. This splits into 2 sections. You've got your ATP in one section, so your adenine triphosphate that can be going off and used by your body. At the same time, pyruvic acid is created. And because there is no oxygen, because this is obviously taking place in the sarcoplasm, our pyruvic acid gets converted or turned into lactic acid. Right? And our lactic acid, this is where that fatigue starts to happen. It inhibits enzymes such as ATPase from working, which obviously starts to create a reduce in performance and reduces your overall levels of sort of activity, where that fatigue sets in and performance would then drop.